Hey, what's going on? Hey, I want to talk about Sean Ryan podcast again. Mark Herrera, U.S. Marine. I think he was a sergeant when he was in. Has a really strange story about some stuff he was doing, I think, in Indonesia or something. He was part of 2-5. So if anybody in 2-5, I guess around this time, let me see if I can find this real quick. Mark Herrera. Yeah, his name's Mark Herrera. He was with 2-5, and he was on a MEU. I guess he's a whistleblower, working kind of side by side, or not side by side, but working alongside Greer. Yo, it's hot. Hang on. Bear with me. I gotta drop blouse real quick. It's hotter in here than you think. Plus, you got these lights on you too, which don't help much either. I got this bump on my arm. It started as a pimple, but I pick my scabs, man. I don't know why. I just do. I guess I just do it. So everything takes forever to heal for me. Anyways, moving forward. All right, so this whistleblower, he sat down with Sean Ryan on the Sean Ryan podcast for about an hour and some change, talking about his experience he had with a UAP. At the time, he said it was the size of a football field. Friggin' huge, man. And he said that it was floating off the ground. There was some kind of platform to it, and he had walked up on it during an operation they were doing out there. Where was it? I want to say Indonesia. They were definitely part of a MEU. I just pulled up this article because I didn't take notes during the podcast, so it's not like I can really jump back to it. But it was during a MEU. I want to see what year it was. Here we go. Former Marine Michael Herrera tells DailyMail.com that he saw a UFO being loaded with weapons while serving in Indonesia in 2009. He was 20 years old at the time. Yeah, so he was like a corporal or a sergeant, and he was voluntold to go on a special kind of little task that was, I guess, divvied down from higher echelon. But they were meant to go off ship into Indonesia to do something, and it was just supposed to take a day or a couple of hours. So what they did was they went out on this mission. He said it was him and 4 or 5 other people, and it was supposed to be literally not a freaking. It wasn't a combat patrol, you know what I mean? But they were doing something that it was a administrative mission or something. Anyways, there was some patrolling involved, and I guess they wound up walking up on something they weren't supposed to walk up on. And as soon as they got there, there were men in black camouflage. He says they were in black camis, and they were using the same lingo. He said they were telling him, they were talking to him the way that military dudes talk to military dudes. So he says it was a good chance that these cats were, that they were prior military. They were doing some kind of contract work, post military service. He was convinced that these guys were vets basically, and they were just working for this third party that was obviously involved with some UAP thing that may or may not have been trafficking humans. So, but what he disclosed on the Sean Ryan podcast, he literally confessed to Congress. He's one of these whistleblowers. So if you guys don't know who this cat is, man, you should check it out because his story is very compelling. And he was an infantryman. He was an infantryman with 2-5 on a MEU. And a lot of us that listen to this, I'm sure, were our infantrymen. And I'm sure a lot of them that listen to that, out of them infantrymen, have been on MEUs. You know what I mean? So the only thing I can think of is if they pulled some corporal or sergeant from his berthing or from his platoon, unless he was in headquarters platoon, if they pulled him, it wasn't because he was a stellar Marine. It was probably because he's probably an outcast, man. So he gets voluntold to do things a lot. So I'm not saying that he's not trustworthy. I'm just saying unless he's if you're embedded in a platoon and you're part of a fire team or you're part of a squad, normally you're pretty embedded in that fire team. Like you don't really go apart and do things separately unless you're back stateside and one of you will go to a school or something, or one of you go to like an advanced course for your MOS or something. Oh, but this guy, he was voluntold to go on this little administrative task mission or whatever, and which tells me that it doesn't say that he's not credible. It just says that it reminds me of people that, like, for example, in Afghanistan, those of you that have been there, or I'm sure Iraq too. I haven't been to Iraq, so I'm not sure if they operated similar. But if we had issues with Marines, like, they just wouldn't leave the wire. We would just find jobs for them to do within the wire. So, it's just kind of, if he was voluntold to do that, it just makes me feel like he might be tied into, like, a circle of those kind of Marines. But they're not all bad Marines. I'm just saying, I don't think he's like your average rock star infantry grunt. You know what I'm saying? I think he's one of those guys that get voluntold to do things a lot, and this is one of those things he got voluntold to do. So he was part of this little tiny task force for the day, and they got scooped up by these dudes in complete black camis. And he said when he walked up, these guys were just aggressive with him and kept telling him, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing here?" Like, cursed at him, said, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing here? Who the fuck is your command?" Like, literally, like, coming down on him, like let's say you're walking around without a cover and you're a private, you're walking around a cover at Lejeune, you're gonna get your ass chewed. Like, that's how he's talking about. He was getting his ass chewed walking up on this operation that was obviously they weren't supposed to see. So he said that he just seen this thing hovering like the size of a football field. And like I said, check it out, Sean Ryan podcast. Again, his name is Mark Herrera, and he was either a corporal sergeant. Like I said, I can't remember. I don't really want to dig too far here on what his rank was because that's not really that important. But it was Mark Herrera on the Sean Ryan podcast, and it was only about an hour some change. So if you got time to check it out, you should. And he does. I mean, he comes off like an infantry dude. Like, he comes off like a grunt. He does use similar lingo, and he as far as like selling himself as a grunt, he's a grunt. I mean, I don't think he's full of shit about that. And then so like it's that right there adds some credibility to him for me, but just the fact that he got voluntold to do this task mission that. It seems like just a couple of dudes had to do it. It just seems like it was like something, I don't know. Just you wouldn't take someone that's embedded in a squad or a platoon, someone out away from that on a deployment to make them go do some special task mission. Unless like it's like a leader's recon or something, I guess that would make sense. But so I don't think he was like I said, I think he was a Marine. Yeah, I just think that he's just one of the Marines that get voluntold to do things a lot. And you take that for what it is, and fill in the blank if you'd like. For those Marines that know what I'm talking about, use whatever words you'd like. But for me, I'm just going to use the word. He's one of those Marines that get voluntold to do things a lot. All right. So yeah. So I guess to the Daily Mail, he told this all to the Daily Mail, and then he went on the Sean Ryan podcast, and then he hasn't spoke to anybody since. So he went to Congress, went to Daily Mail, and then the Sean Ryan podcast. And then he stated on the Sean Ryan podcast that he's not going to go talk to anybody else because he doesn't like the media. He doesn't really like all that, I guess. So I don't know how much more we're going to hear about that situation from this guy. But it was crazy because he said, let me get some of these details. He said that when they walked up on this operation that was going on, he said that these guys pretty much stopped him right there. All black camis at gunpoint, talking to him as Americans in Indonesia. So these guys that were holding them at gunpoint in black camis were also Americans, talking English like Americans with American accents. And so this is another reason why he thought that these guys were prior military, like doing contract work. So anyway, so he says that these guys took their weapons from them, took all their magazines from them, because there was only about 5 or 6 in this little task force. There was Herrera and then like 4 or 5 other guys, and unless any of them have spoken out, I haven't seen anything from any of the other guys. He said the highest ranking dude with him was a gunny, and I'm not sure if he said there was any officers, but I do know the highest ranking enlisted dude that was with him, he said was a gunny. So not that means anything. I'm just saying that I guess to give you an idea of what they were working with or what they were operating with, what kind of team it was. It was like a weird task admin thing is what it seemed like it was. But yeah, so he said they took their weapons, took all their magazines, and I'm thinking, like, as an infantry dude, like, like you got to be convinced that these guys are going to kill you to give your weapon up. Like you got to be ready to be a POW, dude, to give your weapon up. Like you have got to be ready to like, if you give your weapon up to a potential enemy, like you know the outcome. It's black and white. Like if this goes south, I just gave my defense up, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, so just the fact that he stated that they had taken their rifles and their magazines almost instantly tells me that these guys, obviously Corporal Herrera and his little element, were obviously, they felt very threatened, because you don't just hand your weapon off in the infantry. You, especially when you're not in the United States and you're just on foreign land, you just don't hand your weapon off. You don't, even if someone yells at you, tells you to give it to them, unless you know that like, unless you, I guess you know there's no other way, and you're white flagging, surrendering, like giving up your weapon is last resort. Like, oh my God, dude. Like I'd probably, like, it would take like maybe an officer telling me I had to surrender in order to surrender. I don't know. I can't say that because I don't know if I want to put myself out there saying that, because I've never been in those shoes to where I've had to surrender or not. But I'm just saying, like, to surrender your weapon and all your ammunition, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be 100% sure that had you not had done that, they would have killed you on the spot. Like, you have to be 100% sure of that. So that tells me right there that they felt threatened, obviously threatened to have given up their weapons and ammunition so quickly. And he said that the element of these guys in black camis was huge. He said it was like they were only like a 5 or 6 man element, Herrera's team, but he said the element of the black cami veteran or black cami Americans that were holding them at gunpoint, he said they were like over a platoon size, and they were all strapped up. They were all, you know what I mean, like they were already like camied up, or not camied, I'm sorry. They all had flat jackets. They all, you know, they were all gadded up with M4s and ARs. He said they were all pretty stacked up with good assault weaponry. Like, these guys were, you know, tactical, just tactically sound. You know what I mean? So he was convinced they were prior military. And then I guess years later, he met somebody at Stephen Greer's conference. He spoke at Stephen Greer's conference, I guess, recently, and he was one of the main speakers. But what the? Jesus Christ, dude! This time, anyways, I'm trying to fit it all in. But yeah, so he spoke at Stephen Greer's conference, and I guess at Stephen Greer's conference, Stephen Greer, and then he did Daily Mail, and then he did Sean Ryan, and now he's not doing nothing. So, but yeah, at the conference, he was talking to, I guess, some of the other whistleblowers that were there, and there were some guys, I guess, dealing with operations in the area of operations close to or around Indonesia, where Herrera was at the time of the incident, and had explained to him, because this guy was a whistleblower too, had explained to him somehow, and you have to, I guess, watch the podcast for him to explain this better. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. But I guess the guy, the other whistleblower, is somehow connected to the operations that were going on in Indonesia, in which Herrera witnessed, okay, and told Herrera at the Stephen Greer conference years later that it wasn't just Connex boxes and supplies they were moving in that UAP, but in those Connex boxes and supply boxes were human bodies. So apparently, not only is the technology alien or UAP or whatever unidentified, but it's also a human trafficking operation. So like now it's two things mixed into one. So not only is it aliens, which who knows? It sounds like obviously that's not aliens. It sounds like a third party contract company, and it sounds like they have some technology or whatever, which they have some technology that it's just technically sound or advantageous for them not to give it up, right? And even if it's a criminal organization, it's just it has been technically advantageous for however many years they've been operating not to give up that technology, not to hand it over to the government. So why would they, right? So something tells me that it's a third-party company that has technology that maybe they didn't invent or they didn't create, that they may have found and reverse engineered, like they talk about, right, in the news. But so those things that maybe the more scary stories like this, where human trafficking is now involved, those aren't the aliens, man. Those are these creepy, underground, weird, dark filed third party monstrous companies that you only speculate about. I don't know. It's weird, and it's something to think about. But I guess I'm going to cut it there. Just something to think about. Go check it out. He's a former Marine, like I said, Michael Herrera, and he sat down with Sean Ryan on the Sean Ryan podcast, and he gets into depth, and it's very interesting, the things he's talking about, and it's hard to discredit what he's saying, and it's hard to just put off what he's saying, because he speaks a lot like what I'm familiar hearing in the infantry, or what I was familiar hearing about, or hearing people, how I was familiar hearing people speak in the infantry. He just comes off like a regular infantry dude. So it's just hard for me not to believe someone that I guess I can relate with, just basically off of his body language, his aneurysms, the way he conducted himself in the interview. It's just speaks grunt to me. So like, it's hard for me not to put credit to that. Again, though, who knows? Who knows, man? This guy might be full of it, dude. If anybody knows this guy, Michael Herrera, all right, from 25, and they were on a mute. And let me try to find the year, because if I can find the year and give it to you guys, and someone knows someone who was there, or maybe can get this message out to that person who was there and get us some intel about Herrera, and this is just maybe like some stuff about him, or maybe how he was on the mute. I don't know. Just any kind of intel, I guess, would be great. Or if anybody knows Herrera, right? Like, he doesn't want to talk to anybody. So if he wants to come talk to me on my podcast, obviously I would let him come, and he can talk all he wants. I'll shut my mouth and he can talk all he wants. And that'd be great, obviously, for the Treeline podcast, and it'd be great for him to tell his story if he wanted to. So the invitation's there. If you guys want to like follow and subscribe and share that invitation, that'd be fucking phenomenal. But if we can get a message out to either Herrera, okay, 2009. It was a 2009, so whoever was on that MEU in 2009 that had conducted some weird administrative operation in Indonesia. Remember, 2009, and it was 2.5, and it was a MEU. I'm not sure which MEU it was, because it doesn't say it in this specific article, and I didn't write it down, like I said. So if those times, if that unit 2.5 and that time frame 2009 and that MEU deployment type fits your fucking, checks off all your boxes, and you know this cat, hit me up, let me know. But yeah, I'm gonna cut it there, and you guys have a great week, man. Tomorrow's Monday. Don't work too hard, but don't not work at all at the same time. Don't be a fucking bum. And reach out, man. If you guys need anything, let me know. And otherwise, I'm going to try to do another one tomorrow. I love you guys. Please like, follow, subscribe, duet, stitch, do whatever you got to do. Do the right thing, obviously. But hashtag Treeline Podcast. Or what I say yesterday, hashtag it, right? I meant to say tag it so that like people can just click the link and then go to the page. Or whatever. Hashtag, tag it, whatever. Just make sure Treeline Podcast is either hashtag or tagged. And then, yeah, I love you guys. Later. Hey, I didn't even take a sip, did I? One for you guys. Hey, Celsius. Holler at your boy. Later.